Come on then, let's get going with the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. I'm Ali Maxwell. No Premier League this week, but we've got Mark O'Hare from We Love Betting with us. And Mark, there is a serious slate of fixtures across Europe. Some games really standing out.
Yeah, it's a fantastic weekend, Ali, particularly in Europe. I know the FA Cup takes precedence now in England this weekend, but you got the Rome derby. Before or after that, you got Napoli, Juventus in Italy as well. Barcelona go to Valencia. Big matches all around Europe this weekend, which is fantastic if you want to look elsewhere, really, away from these shores.
Yeah, such a busy month or 6 weeks, really, of Premier League action. And it's quite nice sometimes just to press mute, I think, for a weekend and focus on some of the other offerings that football gives us from across the world. Adrian, you are keeping things domestic. Some FA Cup offerings, some EFL, FA Cup fourth round action this weekend in England.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I still love the FA Cup, even though it seems like a lot of managers, not just in the Premier League, but across the EFL, they don't seem quite as keen, which always baffles me a touch. I don't understand why you can't compete on two fronts, but look, I'll keep my powder dry on that one. Yeah, some good games to preview anyway, not just in the FA Cup, but also in the EFL. There's a game in League One I found that's got a cheeky little angle, so we'll get to that soon.
Nice, love that. Well, before we get into the games, a reminder to our loyal listeners and viewers that we've been nominated for an award, the Smart Betting Club's Best Betting Podcast Award, something that we would really like to win. Having won it last year, we've not got any feelings of complacency. We've not started to buy flashy cars or anything like that. We're still grafting, still trying to produce the best pod that we can. So plenty of hard work going into it behind the scenes as well. The team at Matchbook really do provide the groundwork for us and for the Champions League pod, horse racing, NFL. If you think that we're worthy of a vote, we'd be very grateful for your vote. So if you head to Team Matchbook on Twitter, use the link in the pinned tweet, or alternatively, the link to vote is in the description of this podcast. We'd be grateful for any votes. Let's get cracking. Mark, you sort of teased it already. We're going to have to go to Italy. It's an unbelievable weekend in Serie A, and we're starting with Napoli. They are hosting Juventus, and Napoli are 3.58. We're recording this Thursday morning on the Matchbook site. Prices subject to change before the game. Juventus, the away side, 2.15, and the draw, 3.7. At Napoli with half a goal head start, you can get at 1.854, and Juventus minus half a goal at 2.08. Over 2 3/4 goals on site is 1.92, and under 2 3/4 goals, 1.99. So set the scene for us here, Mark. An exciting game, but hopefully also one where we can find a bit of value.
Yeah, I think so, Ali. Very exciting on paper, two illustrious names in Italian football. Unfortunately, Napoli have really dropped off this year. It's been a bit of a car crash season for them, in particular, really, since Rino Gattuso took over from Carlo Ancelotti. I mean, if there wasn't chaos before he arrived, there definitely chaos has arrived after him. They did ease the pressure on him in midweek by beating Lazio in the Coppa Italia quarterfinals 1-0. Rode their luck a little bit in that match. Lazio missed an early penalty, a bit of wayward finishing there as well. The referee, really the star of the show in that game, a very stop-start match with red cards and yellows being flashed around everywhere. But yeah, Gattuso's definitely not out of the woods yet. He was basically apologising to supporters last weekend after they lost 2-0 at home to Fiorentina. He said they were embarrassing, said they'd hit rock bottom. He couldn't explain it. He also suggested his players had no soul and that he thought they were recovering, but in fact they're very much still sick. So I'm certainly not kind of looking at Napoli with a positive light, really, especially after the first week, or the last week, I should say. He's the first coach to lose 4 of his first 5 league games with Napoli since 2000. The only win in that time came in a stoppage time turnaround at Sassuolo. None of the performances in the league have been at all convincing. Speculation continues to mount over his future. Last week you had reports about Alan and Dries Mertens were coming to blows in a very heated argument in the dressing room. And then there was complete confusion from within and outside the club when Gattuso said the team were going back into another training retreat, but less than 24 hours later, they were back out of it. So no one really knows what's going on. Injuries haven't helped either. They're going into this weekend without Koulibaly, Maksimovic, two decent centre halves, Gulam, Allen, Mertens as well. They've lost their last 4 at the San Paolo, winless there since mid-October as well. Just not the time to be hosting a Juventus team who are starting to motor, really. Haven't often convinced or been as exciting attacking-wise under Sarri as we probably hoped they would be, but they've now opened up a 4-point lead, won 16 of 20 league games. Ronaldo's banging form, bagged goals in his last 7 league games, the first Juve player to do that since Trezeguet in 2005. And this is a team who's already won away at Inter, Roma, Atalanta, and their rivals Torino. They got a 67% open play XG ratio return as well, which is obviously very, very strong too. And I think odds against, they're in a decent position here to go and get a victory. So, yeah, Juventus to win. I think you're on mute, Ali.
Sorry. I'm muted while I was listening to you, while I was putting my headphones on. My question mark was, what's the form at the top of Serie A at the moment? I know that Juventus have obviously won back-to-back titles. How are they looking for another title this year? A bit trickier?
A bit trickier, but it is starting to look a little bit ominous. Inter have wobbled. They tend to wobble in the new year. They always seem to start the season very, very strongly. And under Conte, they have started to wobble now in the second half of the season. Dropped points at Lecce last weekend, which is really not ideal. But Lazio are the ones to really watch. They're going to the Rome derby this weekend in a fantastic position. I think they've won their last 11 in the league now, which is remarkable, really. Scoring goals for fun. If they win their game in hand, they're only 3 points behind Juventus too. So they've beaten Juve as well before Christmas. So a team very much to watch. But at the moment, unfortunately, it does look like Juventus are going to see out the season with another win.
Do you have any thoughts? Sorry to get you like this. Do you have any thoughts on that derby between Rome and Lazio? I know it was a few weeks ago. We did fancy Lazio in a winning punt. I think it was against Napoli, who you've spoken about. Any chance that they do the same against Rome this weekend? The question's been asked from P. Geasley.
Look, it's a very difficult game for Lazio. Being the away team, I know it's in the same stadium, but they do tend to struggle as the away team in the derby. So that would be a concern. It's obviously always a feisty fixture too. Emotions can often get the better of these teams. I think there's been 11 red cards in the last 18 or 19 games. But if they are going to have a realistic chance of getting the Scudetto, they have to get a result in this match. They've only lost 2 league games this season. They've only Atalanta are creating fewer opportunities going forward. They feature really, really strongly in all the ratio rankings. So they have got an opportunity because Roma at home haven't been completely convincing. A team that likes to play on the counter-attack. They've only won half of their home matches, and their record against the top half is just 2 wins, 4 defeats, and 3 draws. Those wins came against Milan, who are in 8th, and Verona in 10th. So there's an opportunity there for Lazio. I think now potentially a bit of value there with a draw no bet or a +0 start on the Asian handicap, but it's probably a game that I'd look more towards the cards than an outsider winning.
Okay, let's unleash Adrian. Adrian, you prefer to keep things domestic, these flashy Euro fixtures that Mark takes us to. You like to keep things on our shores, don't you? Because we've got the loft extension to save for, and you've always said what's Europe got that Britain doesn't have? So, at the risk of putting words in your mouth, I'm just being silly. But we're going.
Time, Ali. I just have 0 time to watch European football as much as Mark, unfortunately. So I put all my eggs in the UK basket. Absolutely,
and you are. Thankfully for this pod, an expert of the EFL as well as the Premier League, and that does take up a lot of time. We've got a game between Brentford, 5th in the Championship, and Leicester, 3rd in the Premier League this weekend. It's one of those ties that looks like a cracker on paper if they were both at full strength and really going for it. What do you predict in that sense for this game?
I don't predict that they will be at full strength, and I don't predict they'll go for it in the way that we hope, unfortunately, which I think is a crying shame because Brentford's 18 with BMW up top and everybody there flying at the moment would give any Leicester City side a real handful, I think, at Griffin Park. But you've got to look ahead, unfortunately. And on Tuesday night, Brentford entertained Forest in a game that could be pivotal, I guess, to both teams' playoff chances. And Leicester go to Villa Park for the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. So I'm telling you now that both managers will prioritise those games, which I think is really sad. Who's got the better B team? I'd imagine that Leicester would just about shade it on that front. Jamie Vardy's not fit, wouldn't have played anyway, I guess. What I will say about Brentford is that they're hard to break down. You know that, Ali, best defensive record in the Championship. They don't give many goals away, particularly on home turf. So I think they'll be really well organised. And what tends to happen, we've all seen this down the years, when you get mix and match teams, they can become disjointed affairs. They won't flow in the same way that we hope. And for that reason, I think it'd be a low scoring affair. I think it'd be fairly cagey. Brentford, the only times they've lost this season have been at home, have been 1-0 defeats to Huddersfield and Birmingham. So the way I look at this game is that it'll be scrappy. It won't be as good to watch as we anticipate, and that Leicester will just nick it by 1-0. That's 8.0 guide price at the moment with Matchbook. So it's a good value on a 1-0 win for Leicester. That's where I'd be going for that game.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned comparing the strengths of their B teams. Of course, Brentford's second team is called the B team. They're the only team, I think, in English football with that. Potentially Huddersfield as well, actually, since they scrapped the academy. And they do have a great pathway from B team to first team. But it has been notable that they've had a few additions and a few come back from injury in recent weeks. But certainly in recent times, if you look at Brentford's bench, even for league games where they have their first team out, there'll be 4 or 5 B team players on the bench. And these are young guys without much experience. I suppose for Leicester, you know, as with many Premier League teams, but especially a team like Leicester, who are very willing to hoover up young English talent, young British talent, you're probably going to see the likes of James Justin, who starred for Luton last season, Chowdhury, who has started some Premier League games recently, but not on the weekend, a bit of Damari Gray, potentially Iheanacho, I'm sure will get a start that he always has to work quite hard for, and normally makes the most of it. So, look, I'm very happy with this 1-0 Leicester win for all the reasons that you've discussed. We're going to go to Valencia now. Valencia against FC Barcelona. Barcelona, famously, if you're someone who resides almost entirely on Twitter like I do, playing in Ibiza in midweek. I think they went behind in that game. They're going to Valencia this weekend, and they are strong favourites, as you'd expect. Valencia at 4-1, 5.0 currently on the Matchbook exchange. FC Barcelona 1.69, and the draw 4.35. Valencia plus 3/4 of a goal are available at 2.08, and Barcelona minus that 0.75 handicap at 1.854. Over 3 goals, 1.925. So we're looking like it could be high scoring, but the under is 1.98, and Marco Hare is going to tell us what he thinks is the best angle for this game.
Yeah, so we've seen 2 games now of Barcelona under Quique Setien. Neither have completely convinced me at all. There's a lot to be said about Quique Setien, lots positive, a few negative comments too, but that's probably a separate podcast. But I mean, in midweek against away at Ibiza, they left Messi behind, went behind, as you say, Ali, and then really kind of toiled. Didn't have a shot on target until Griezmann scored the equaliser with 20 minutes to play, and he scored again to win the game. But it kind of followed a similar theme to the game against Granada last weekend. Now, I know these are only 2 games we've seen from Barcelona, but the kind of the intricacies of a Setien's side are already really there to see. They attempted over 1,000 passes against Granada, had 83% of possession, really dominated the ball. I think only twice in La Liga history have those 2 figures been eclipsed since data began in 2005. But Setien is a coach who likes his tiki-taka, likes possession, thinks it's the best form of attack, defence and control of the game. And obviously we saw that against Granada, but a lot of the possession was really quite stale, a bit directionless at times too. They only had a fifth of their completed passes went forward. They only had 6 shots on target in that game, and it took them 70 minutes to get the goal. It came after Granada were reduced to 10 men. Granada had also hit the post in that match as well. So their system is a sort of a 3-5-2, Messi playing centrally. I think they really missed Suarez in that match too. And they also just seem to struggle to create opportunities. And I think if Valencia do watch what the 2 games against Barcelona have been like under Setien, they should really, in theory, sit back and try and ask Barcelona to break them down, play on the counter-attack, because I haven't seen anything really to suggest that Barca are right in, I don't want to say are capable, because obviously they are when they've got the best player on the planet on their team, but I think the odds are far too skewed in their favour here. The odds suggest they've got about a 61% chance of winning this match. It's not really for me at all. Valencia are missing Dani Parejo, the captain, former QPR midfielder. He's banned, which is a big blow. Their underlying numbers have been really underwhelming this season. They actually smashed 4-1 at Mallorca last weekend, which came from nowhere. But they've made some decent strides under Albert Salades, who had to pick up the reins after Marcelino left. And they are notoriously difficult to beat at Mestalla as well. You look at all the top teams that have been there this season, all have failed to win. They've actually avoided defeat in 6 of the last 7, hosting the big 3. And that's a run that dates back to the Gary Neville era. And actually, I really like the look of Valencia here with a +1 start on the Asian line, which is just odds on, still available around 1.9, which I think is a fantastic bet. You get paid out if they avoid defeat and get your stake back if they lose by exactly 1 goal. Because since Atletico came part of the big 3 way back in 2011-12, Valencia have only lost 4 of 22 home games against the big 3 by 2 or more goals. And I think Barca have a lot to prove to suggest that they're capable of winning this match by 2 or more.
Yeah, quite a good time, I suppose, to play a Barcelona side who are in transition with a new manager with such a specific, almost ideological style of play that he's clearly trying to implement immediately. Of course, Barca are in the midst of what looks like quite an exciting title race with Real Madrid. As we record, they're both on 43 points from 20 games. So he can't risk taking too long to get things going. I guess the question when you talk about, how Valencia could likely get a result here, and it is the classic against a big side across Europe these days, low block, defensive discipline, good use of transitions and counterattacks. Do you think this Valencia side has it in them? There are some teams who are really well suited to that sort of, extended defensive play. Do you think Valencia have got that in them?
It's a good question, Ali. I think they do. It's not really in their character to really do that, which is probably a slight concern. But the flip side, they are also very, very effective when they press teams, get in their face, hassle and harry. They've had great success against Real Madrid, who will often come here and try to go all out attack, really. And Valencia really get in their face, put the pressure on, enjoy the turnovers, and make the most of their small opportunities. But this is a team who finished in the top 4 last year, performed reasonably well in the Champions League this year. They're no mugs themselves. Parejo is a big miss, but there's definitely quality in that squad. They've got quite a huge wage bill compared to most of their La Liga rivals, obviously dwarfed by the big 2. But they're no mugs at all, Valencia. They have got ability to play in a variety of different ways. I guess it's down to Salades to decide what way it's the best way to approach things. I just think from the evidence of the first 2 games, plus Setien's reign with Las Palmas, with Betis as well, that his teams often don't fare too well when they're asked to kind of send the ball forward and try and break down a low block defensive system, which if Valencia do employ, I think Barca could have struggles with.
Albert Salades, of course, born in Barcelona, came through the system at La Masia, but also represented Real Madrid for 5 years. So a penny for his thoughts on the title race in La Liga. Adrian, we're going to Hull now. Hull against Chelsea in the FA Cup. This one is the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday. Hull of the Championship, another EFL versus Premier League game. They are 6.6 on the Matchbook site as we record to win this game. Chelsea 1.48 and the draw 4.45. Hull plus 1.25 goals on the Asian handicap, 1.84. Chelsea minus 1.25 goals at 2.08. Over 3 goals in this game is available at 2.06 and the under at 1.84. So why did you flag this game for us, Adrian? How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, well, it's an attractive game on paper again, isn't it? Championship, dangerous Championship side against Chelsea. History tells us that Chelsea are solid in these kind of fixtures. They've progressed, I think, in 49 of the last 51 FA Cup ties against teams below them in the pyramid. So there's no recent slip-ups from Chelsea. And Hull, they don't have any kind of reputation as giant killers either. You have to go back to 1973 for the last time Hull beat a top flight side when they were out of the top flight themselves. in the FA Cup. So looking at history, you would have to go with Chelsea. I'm also looking at Hull here, and you'd think, right, dangerous on the counter attack. Grzycki, Bowen, two of the most dangerous players from transitions in English football, really. I would say, certainly in the EFL. Now, Grzycki's been carrying an injury. He wasn't fit for the last game. He might be rushed back for this. Personally, I'm not sure if he will or not. Jared Bowen's hit a slight wall, like one goal in the last 7 appearances. So their two main men aren't exactly firing at the moment. And I'll tell you what, on the back of that very mediocre performance against Arsenal, Frank Lampard will have got into the Chelsea players here. And no matter which 11 he puts out there, they'll go out there with a steeliness, I think, that will come from the very top, because he wouldn't have been happy with the way they went about the game against Arsenal, and he will be looking for a reaction from Chelsea here. And Hull, they're not exactly sensational on home turf with their best team out on the pitch, with their star men flourishing. I think they've lost 6 matches at the KCOM so far this season. So look, for me, this is Chelsea all day long, and I think they'll do it with something to spare as well. So I'm leaning towards Chelsea with a minus 1.25 or -1 on a handicap here. I think they'll win by 2 goals or more.
Okay, and it's a big game for Jared Bowen, who you mentioned there. One of the Championship's standout players for the last few years, still only 23, just turned 23, plays off the right mostly, but has played through the middle at times this season. Over the last 2 seasons, it's a goal record of more or less 1 in 2. And in Championship terms, we both talk about him a lot as an elite finisher, someone who seems to have a knack for being in the right place, who can create his own shot off the dribble, but also seems to find himself on the end of chances. But there has been a lot of questions, really, why there hasn't been a chance for him yet in the Premier League, why no one's gone for him. And I was reading the other day, Adrian, there is a lingering question that comes up, which is, what else does he do apart from score? Which some people think sounds ridiculous, right? But he will take this very seriously as a chance to show whoever's watching what he can do against top level players, even if it is maybe Chelsea's second team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, look, I don't think it will necessarily be Chelsea's second team. I think he'll say, look, go out there again, do better for me, get us into the next round. I don't, and he'll make changes, of course, but I don't think he's going to be putting the kids out, Frank Lampard here. But no, you're right, Jared Bowen, this is a shot window game for him. Personally, I don't understand why Premier League teams haven't taken a chance on him. To be honest, the teams at the top end of the Championship should, in my opinion, if they've got the funds, show the ambition and put it out there for Jared Bowen now. I'm talking Leeds, I'm talking West Bromwich Albion. They're both in need of a goal scorer, someone to win games for them between now and the end of the season. Jared Bowen is a match winner, no doubt about that. He can conjure up moments of magic. I don't care that he doesn't offer that much in general play. I don't think he's a shirker. I think he's very good on the counter-attack. So if those sides were to go up, or if he was to join a bottom half of the table Premier League team that has to play on the counter, he would add plenty, in my opinion. So no, it's a slight mystery why he hasn't been snapped up yet. But look, I just don't know how many opportunities he'll get in this game. I can see Chelsea scoring early on and strangling the life out of Hull City here, and I think they'll progress with relative ease. Okay,
perfect. Mark, I reckon we've done, just over 18 months since I've been steering the ship of the Matchbook Weekend Football podcast. And I don't remember talking much about Monaco in that time. I don't remember ever talking about Strasbourg, but they are going head-to-head on Saturday evening. And Monaco are the home side. They're also a strong favourite here, 1.602 currently on the Matchbook machine. Strasbourg 5.9 and the draw 4.15. Monaco minus a goal on the Asian handicap 2.11, and Strasbourg with a goal head start 1.826. Over 2 3/4 goals is 1.925, and the under 1.98. So I suppose Monaco feel like a team we don't talk about as much as maybe we did a few years ago. What is it about this game against Strasbourg, with Monaco 9th and Strasbourg 12th, that really captured your attention?
Well, I think Monaco are going to start progressing in the right direction. It's been a very inconsistent campaign. They sacked Leonardo Jardim for the second time before Christmas, brought in a respected Spanish coach, Robert Moreno. It's his first full-time club management gig as a number one. He talks a very good game, very intelligent guy, lots of experience as a coach. And it looks like his players have started to respond to his ideals, his tweaks. He's been dealt a pretty tough hand, really. His first 2 league games in charge were home and away against PSG because of a quirk with the scheduling, a rearranged game going in there alongside the standard weekend game. They drew 3-3 in Paris in his first match. Really fantastic performance. No one really expected it or knew where it came from, really. He changed from 3-5-2 to something more accustomed to a 4-3-3 with Alexander Golovin playing as the number 10. Really captivating going forward in that match. Looked really exciting. He used the pace of Keita Balde and Gelson Martins on the flanks. Martins particularly looked liberated. He's been used as a wing-back regularly under Jardim. So a team that looks happier, not just on the field, but off the field too. They were kind of given a bit of a bounce-back treatment by PSG a few days later, lost 4-1 in the return match. But there certainly is a real air of optimism and positivity around Monaco right now. Comfortably progressed in the French Cup last weekend, as you'd expect against lower league opposition. But yeah, I do fancy them to get a good result here against Strasbourg. The bulk of these figures are obviously under Jardim as well, but they're averaging 1.64 expected goals from open play at home this season. The second top league scorers behind PSG average 2.5 goals per game at home. And there's just so much firepower in that team with Ben Yedder, Balde, Martins, Fabregas, Golovin as well. I'm not sure on Slimani's fitness, but he's obviously there and thereabouts as well. And they come up against the Strasbourg team who just don't go away very well. I felt sorry for them because they had to go through the Europa League qualifiers in the summer. Quite a small squad too, so they looked really leggy for the most part of the campaign. But they've pulled through that with some decent form, mainly based at home because they've lost 7 of 10 away games, failed to score in 8 of those. And they've just really stumped the place out away from home. Averaged less than 0.5 XG open play away and fewer than 5 shots in the box as well. Their away record since promotion at top half teams, 15 defeats in 25, failing to score in 12 of those, just the 3 clean sheets in 25 as well. They're going to go there, they're going to try and resist and try and hold off, but too much quality in that Monaco squad, who I think are going to start pushing towards European places again. I expect them to overcome a Asian handicap hurdle. Minus 0.75 is around 1.8, which I think is fair enough.
I see Ben Yedder has been in the goals this season. No surprise, just a fantastic goal scorer over the last few years, pretty much wherever he's been. Okay, that's a game from Italy, 1 from Spain, 1 in France, and 2 in the FA Cup. Adrian, I guess the next question is, any other business for us?
I've always got other business, Ali. You know that. I've got 2 games to pick out. One's, for me, it's the tired around. It's Coventry against Birmingham City. You think, well, what's the big deal about that? But of course, it's Coventry at home to Birmingham City at St Andrews. Very unique situation. And apparently 10,000 fans apiece expected inside the ground. So it's going to remind us of an old-fashioned FA Cup semi-final feel with half the stadium each. I love that. The reason I've picked this out as well is that I think Coventry have got a real live chance here. I'm impressed with them. I think they're playing excellently. They changed their system earlier on in the season to 3-4-2-1, and it's working. They needed a goal scorer. Matty Godden has stepped up to the plate. The 2 behind him, 2 young players with real ability in Shipley and Westbrook. And I just think that they're very confident on this pitch, and they score goals. And to be perfectly honest, they're probably a more fluent side than Birmingham, even though they're in the division below. So I give them. There are lots of reasons why I'd fancy Coventry, not least because Birmingham are not keeping any clean sheets. I mean, it's a shocking record at the moment. 11 away from home without a clean sheet. Now you say, okay, away from home, they're actually at home here. Well, at home, they've had 8 games in a row where they haven't kept a clean sheet. So for that reason, I would expect Coventry to score. They don't tend to be involved in too many thrillers. So maybe a 3-goal game with me siding towards Coventry. So Coventry to win, both teams to score. It comes out at 6.0 with Matchbook. So decent value on that possible upset. So that's the first one. The other one is in League One. Burton against Accrington. Now, I'll give you some stats here. Accrington, 3 defeats in a row. In 13 of their 14 away games, they've scored 1 goal or less. So they just don't score many goals on the road. Now, flip that around. The Pirelli Stadium, hardly any goals ever scored there. It's been probably the most boring place to have a season ticket in the EFL this season. Only 42% of matches have had more than 1 goal, which is just crazy, really. So I have to look at this and say Burton to win, low scoring match. If you want to get on Burton, it's 2.06, which I think is a great price, actually, on Burton to beat Accrington. And under 2.5 goals is 2.08. So both represent decent value if you look at the stats, if you look at the records.
Nice. I love that. The other thing to love about that Burton Accrington game is that the managers, Nigel Clough and John Coleman, they managed in opposition dugouts 19 years ago for the same teams. I think in the Northern Premier League, I'm not sure what it was called at the time, but it's basically 4 tiers lower than they are now. So real veterans of the English game. I
played against those sides. I played Burton in the National League when Clough was manager. I played against Accrington when he was there originally. So yeah, it's mad really that they're back at the helm and doing pretty well, you've got to say.
Absolutely. Mark, any other business?
Yeah, so kind of talked about the Rome derby earlier in the show. Kind of a slight inkling there towards Lazio on the drawn a bet +0 Asian handicap, but there are 2 actually from England this weekend which stood out in the FA Cup. I think Millwall 2-1 to beat Sheffield United at home is possibly where the best upset's going to be this weekend. Millwall have a knack of beating the bigger teams at the Premier League. At the Den, I think they've beaten 4 teams there in the last 2 years in the FA Cup. No team outside the Premier League has beaten more Premier League teams in the FA Cup since in the last 20 years or so. Their form under Gary Rowett is absolutely outstanding, not bettered by anyone since he's taken over there. Their XG ratio is up really high as well, creating chances. And Sheffield United obviously fielded the reserves against Fylde in the 3rd round. They went out last year in the 3rd round to Barnet, who are non-league at the time. So I can't imagine Chris Wilder is going to really change tact for that match. So if United do go under strength, as we probably expect, then Millwall at 2-1 looks a decent bet there. But also just one in League One, the price is collapsing very quickly, but I think it's a very good circumstance bet, really. Blackpool host Tranmere on Saturday. Now, Blackpool are in a rotten run of form without a win in 8, down to 15th, but they've been very busy in the transfer market and were very unfortunate to lose at Lincoln last weekend. Simon Grayson's been kind of crying out for a bit of creativity. His team has scored 5 goals in an 8-game run, lost 4 and 5 in the league. But I think they've got a really good chance this weekend because Tranmere are involved in FA Cup action on Thursday night against Watford at home, the winner of which gets a tie against Man United at home. So they're very much committed to getting the relegation, obviously getting out of the relegation battle in League One, but also trying to progress in the Cup. Obviously, we're speaking Thursday morning. We don't know what kind of team Tranmere are putting out, but looking by the quotes from Mickey Mellon this week, they're very much going to go for it on Thursday night. And then they've got less than 48 hours to prepare for the game against Blackpool away, which is, I can't find it conceivable at all that they're going to be 100% for that match.
Yeah.
They've only won 5 games since promotion, lost 8 times in 12 away, lost by 2 or more in 6 of those 12, managed just a 30% XG ratio away, conceded 8 or more shots on target, or shots in the box, I should say, in 8 of those 12 games as well. I could go on and on. The statistics away from home are pretty wretched, and they've conceded 14 goals from dead ball situations, excluding penalties, and that's an area of strength for Blackpool too. So if you can get about 1.75, which is available on the high street at the moment, absolutely get involved. It's collapsed a lot since the last few days as people have kind of woken up to the reality of Tranmere's schedule this week, but until it gets down to 1.7, probably leave it alone. But there will be opportunities on the Asian handicap too, but maybe wait until we see the team that they put out on Thursday night.
Magnificent stuff from both of you. Thank you. Just leave us with your best bet of the weekend, please. Start with you, Mark.
Yeah, it's going to be Valencia +1 on the Asian handicap. Very difficult team to beat at Mestalla at the best of times, but their record against the big 3 at home is always very strong, and I expect Barcelona to struggle to beat them by at least 2 goals. And
what about you, Adrian?
Yeah, for me, it's Chelsea. I think Chelsea on -1 comes out around even money. I fancy them strongly to go to the KCOM and do a very professional job on them.
Happy days for Chelsea fans then. That has been the Matchbook Weekend Football Podcast. Thank you for watching and or listening. Just a reminder that if you've enjoyed the show today, if you enjoy the show each week, then we'd love a vote on the best betting podcast award, which is from the Smart Betting Club. It's not for how good my enunciation is. It's just for the quality of the content. So if you think we're worthy of a vote, head to @TeamMatchbook on Twitter. Use the link in the pinned tweet. We would love to win the Smart Betting Club's Best Betting Podcast for the second year in a row. And we'll be back again next week. So make sure you tune in then. Have a good weekend.